All right, let's dive into something that trips up almost everyone when they're starting out in data analysis, getting your Python environment set up. We're going to look at how a process that used to be a total headache has become incredibly simple, turning all that old complexity into a clean, easy workflow.
You know the feeling, right? You find this awesome guide, this perfect project, and you're all fired up to get started. But the setup instructions feel like they were written in a different decade. They're telling you to connect to servers you don't have access to or use software that's impossible to find. It's this massive wall that stops you dead in your tracks.
Well, that's what we're going to fix today. We're going to take one of those old lockdown guides and show you exactly how to get the same result using modern, accessible tools that you can have up and running in just a few minutes. We're turning that complicated past into a much, much simpler present.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the problem itself. Then we'll take a quick peek at the old way, just for context. After that, we'll jump into two fantastic modern solutions. Then the fun part. We'll run our first bit of code and get you all set to start your own analysis. Simple as that.
Okay, so the inspiration for this whole thing comes from a classic tutorial out of Boston University. It's a really great resource for learning data analysis, but it was built around a system that most of us just can't get into. That system is called the Shared Computing Cluster, or SCC. Just think of it as a giant supercomputer for researchers and students at the university. It's incredibly powerful, but it's also exclusive. So yeah, unless you're a student or researcher there, those original setup instructions, they're basically a locked door.
Okay, so before we jump to the easy way, let's take a quick peek at what you used to have to do. And I mean a quick peek. This is just for context, so you can really appreciate the after when we get to it.
I mean, look at this. The old workflow was all deep in the command line. You had to use something called SSH to log into a remote server. Then you had to know these special commands to load the exact right version of Python, and then copy files from some protected directory. It was complex, it was intimidating, and frankly, it was a pain. This, right here, is the barrier we're about to completely smash.
And this is how we smash it. Welcome to the modern local setup. This is all about putting a complete data science workshop right on your own computer, easily, for free, and with no special access needed.
So, the hero of our story today is this thing called Anaconda, and it is a game changer. It's basically a one-stop shop. You download this one free package, and boom, you get Python, you get Jupyter Notebooks for your code, and you get all the essential libraries you're going to need, like Pandas and NumPy, all bundled together. No more hunting around for bits and pieces.
And wow, does this slide tell the whole story. Remember that tangled mess of command line steps we just saw? Well, here's the modern workflow. You download it, you run the installer, just like any other app. You launch Jupyter, that's literally it. We went from a winding, confusing maze to a straight, paved road.
And getting it running is just as easy. If you're a visual person, there's the Anaconda Navigator app. You just point and click. If you like the terminal, you just type one simple command, Jupyter Notebook. It works for everyone.
Okay, but what if you're on a computer where you can't install stuff, like a work laptop or a Chromebook? Or maybe you just want to get going even faster. Well, there's an even simpler way that requires zero installation. Let's talk about the cloud.
And for that, we have Google Colab. This is amazing. It's a full-on Jupyter environment that runs completely in your web browser on Google's servers. You don't have to install a single thing on your computer. Seriously, if you've got a Google account, you can be writing code in like the next 30 seconds.
Okay, so now you have two great options. Which one's right for you? Let's break it down. On one hand, you've got the local setup with Anaconda. This is awesome because you have total control, it works even when you're offline, and it uses your own computer's power. On the other hand, you've got the cloud with Google Colab. The big win here? Zero installation. It's also super easy to share your work with others. And get this, you can get free access to really powerful hardware from Google. Look, there's no wrong answer here. It's all about what works best for you and your situation.
All right, enough talk about setup. Let's get to the best part of any project, that amazing aha moment where you actually see your code do something cool.
And you know what? It's not just the software that's gotten easier. The data has too. Remember how the old guide made you copy a file from that locked server? Forget that. We're just going to grab a classic data set on academic salaries straight from a public URL.
And this is all the code you need. It's just 3 simple lines. First, we import Pandas. That's the powerhouse library for working with data tables in Python. Next, we tell Pandas to read our data right from that URL. And finally, we just ask to see the first few rows of the table we just loaded. That's it.
And just like that, boom, there it is. A beautiful, clean, perfectly structured table of data sitting right inside your notebook. You just did it. You used Python to pull data from the internet and display it. This feeling, right here, this is the moment you go from wanting to be a data analyst to actually being one.
I mean, with that one successful step, you've kicked the door wide open. The hard part is over, your journey really begins right now. So let's wrap this up. What are the big takeaways here? First, and most importantly, setting up your environment is not a barrier anymore. It's solved. Second, you've got incredible, free options, whether you want to work on your own machine with Anaconda or in the cloud with Colab. And third, you literally just loaded and looked at real data. You've already taken the first step. You are officially ready to start analyzing.
So, think of it like this. Your personal data science lab is now officially open for business. The tools are laid out, the lights are on, and your first sample is under the microscope. The only question left is, what do you want to discover first?